Hey, so this guy asked a good question, I know how to spin, but I want to know how to spin faster like you do, because I'm really struggling with it. So totally, I'd love to show you how you could spin your saber just a little bit faster. First things first, I want to go over just a few things that are generally going to help you spin your saber faster before I show you like a technique of how to spin it. Because it's really important to know these few things just so they help you spin faster. The first is your saber itself. Make sure you're spinning a lightweight saber if you want to get the highest speed. The reason I order the stunt sabers for myself and not like the high-class NeoPixel ones is because I like to spin fast and I like to do stunt videos like this, so I can spin fast and I can spin aggressively if I need to. I don't order high quality or super high quality sabers because I'm afraid of breaking them. Make sure you're spinning a lightweight saber. I recommend baselit sabers that are very, very lightweight, easy to spin, easy to toss around, and not super expensive to replace. Second thing to keep out for and to look out for is your saber style. So after a while, you'll kind of get the hang of like how to spin each one and how to spin every saber style to your likeness, right? But when you're starting out, there are a few things that you might want to look for in your saber style or your hilt style that will make it a little easier to spin faster. For instance, these two are very different. This one has ribbed and engraved raised metal that would make it fairly uncomfortable to spin faster. There's nothing for my hand to grip onto to stop it from grabbing the blade. So it's a little bit harder and I have to have a little bit harder of a grip on it. But with this one has a smooth finish on it and more importantly has a choke point. So there's a choke point to stop my hand from hitting the blade. So you'll notice when I do those Annie-Obi videos where I challenge myself to spin Annie-Obi as fast as I can, I'm using this one. Because this one I can lock my hand in on the choke point. So it prevents the saber from whipping out or me losing the saber. The last thing you want to kind of keep in mind is it's not necessarily all about speed as it is about technique and form. You'll notice that people who spin fast or people who know how to spin a lot better normally have been spinning for quite some time and they know how to spin. They know the basic twirls, they know what they're doing, and they know their way around a saber. The reason they're able to spin fast is because they were able to spin slow and they know their technique. It's a lot harder to spin fast when you don't know what you're spinning or how to spin it. So definitely spend some time focusing on the technique, and this is just a general tip. Focus on the technique of whatever move you're doing before you try to speed it up. Because yeah, sure, you could grab any saber and just spin as fast as you can, but it's not going to be the best. It's going to look sloppy and it's going to look rushed. You want to make sure you know what you're spinning, because when I spin fast, I'm not just grabbing a saber and spinning fast. I know the moves I'm going to do. Even though I freestyle every single one of my videos, I know the moves I'm planning on doing. I know I'm doing a figure eight into an Annie-Obi, into like an overhead. Like, I know what I'm doing, so I know how to spin them faster. Definitely spend some time focusing on the technique, figuring out where your wrist should turn, how it should turn, where it should move, so you can figure out how to move up the speed and spin it just a little bit faster. Oh, I hit my butt. Now that I got those tips out of the way, this is assuming that you know all those tips and you're an expert at spinning your saber, you know what you're doing, but you just want to increase your speed a little bit. Here are a few tips I have. Number one, keep it loose. Keep your wrist loose. You don't want to lock up your wrist. I see people all the time spinning like this, where my wrist is locked up. You see, it's not twirling. You want to keep your wrist nice and loose, so when you twirl, it's a nice fluid motion. Keep your wrist nice and loose. You can help by doing like wrist circles, arm circles. Just do anything to keep your wrist nice and loose before a good saber twirl or a good flow, because it'll help in the long run to have a loose motion. You don't want to be stiff spinning a saber. The second thing is something I call the tap, where it applies mostly to the single twirl, where there'll be two ways I could do this single twirl, and I'll show you. This is the first way without the tap, and the tap is that. Do you see the difference? One of them is just, it's spinning on these two fingers, and I'm just holding it. But if I wanted to pick up the speed and flick it, I would simply take these fingers I'm not using and tap it so that I can flick it. So you tap it and keep your wrist nice and loose, and you can speed it up. And then you can apply that to everything and you flick. So instead of just a basic motion, you're doing a flick, 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 all that stuff, right? So you're doing the tap with your fingers and the flick with your wrist to keep it a little bit more loose and to keep up the speed. The third thing I can do to show you how to increase your speed is to start slow and move up progressively. There were these challenges I was doing back in the summer where I would start on a pace. I would keep a video playing and keep the speed, and we would keep amping up on the sound, and I would have to follow the speed. So I would start off nice and slow like this, and then I'd have to keep following the sound and keep picking up my speed, right? So if you want to learn how to spin faster, you gotta learn how to spin slow first. Pick any sort of twirl that you want to do, isolate that twirl, whether it's the twirl, reverse twirl, figure 8, or Annie-Obi, or whatever you want to do, or like some random reverse stuff, whatever you want to do, and start it slow and progressively pick up the speed. So for the flick, I would just start real slow, get the flow down, get the hang of it down, and then start picking up the speed a little bit. Once you get the hang of the motion, focus on the motion, focus on the form and the technique, and then you can slowly start picking your speed up. Same thing with like a figure 8. Start slow, get the motion down, figure out how your wrist is turning, and then you can start picking it up a little bit. Like that. And in the end, you can kind of start spinning your sabers a little bit faster no matter what you want to do. If you want to start dual wielding, you could do that. But, as I always said, those first 3 tips are the most important. Make sure you know what hilt you're using. Use base-lit lightsabers if you want light. Use base-lit lightweight sabers for high-class spinning or for high-speed spinning, and the hilt style. If you want your blade to stay in your hand, get a choke point. But other than that, I hope I helped, and I hope I could show you how to spin a little faster. Peace.